All right, so if you're a parent in Dubai, you definitely know that feeling when the school report card comes home. It can be a moment of pride for sure, but let's be honest, it can also be just confusing, right? You've got all these acronyms, these weird scores, and maybe even a few tears from the kids. Well, today we're going to decode all of it. Does this sound familiar? I bet it does. It's a message we hear from parents all the time. Your child studies, they go in to take the test, and they come out feeling totally defeated. And that's just awful for them, and it's stressful for you. But what if I told you that feeling? That feeling that the test was impossible might actually be a good thing. Seriously, stick with me because we are going to get to the bottom of this. Okay, so let's dive right into this report card. The first thing you see is this alphabet soup of letters: PTM, PTE, PTS. What on earth are they? Well, these aren't just some optional extras. They're actually a huge part of the school system here. So let's figure out what they really mean. So why all these tests in the first place? Well, it all comes down to something called the National Agenda Parameter. Basically, Dubai's Education Authority, the KHDA, requires schools to prove that their students are performing as well as, or even better than, kids of the same age in the UK. And these tests, they're the tool they use to measure that. And this table here really breaks down the feed-in challenges. So the math test, the PTM, it's not just about numbers. It's filled with complex word problems, which means it's kind of a sneaky English test too. Then you've got the English test, the PTE, which gets super technical, asking about things like a subordinate clause. I mean, who even remembers what that is? And the science test, the PTS, is less about memorizing facts and more about the process of science, like how to design a fair experiment. So this brings us right back to why your child might have felt the test was so hard. The reason these tests can feel impossible is all about how they're designed. They are nothing like the paper and pencil tests that most of us grew up with. You see, they're adaptive tests, and this is how they work. The computer is literally reacting to your child question by question. They get one right, boom, the next one gets a little bit harder. They get one wrong, okay. The system eases up and gives them something a little easier. It's constantly adjusting, trying to pinpoint their exact level. And here is the absolute key. If your child found that test hard, it actually means they were getting a lot of questions right. The computer had to keep throwing harder and harder questions at them to find their absolute upper limit, what the experts call the attainment ceiling. So a difficult test isn't a sign of failure, it's a sign of success. Okay, so you've made it through the test itself. Now you get the report, and you're looking for a percentage, a grade, something familiar, but instead you see this one single, mysterious number. This is where we need to talk about the Stanine. It's the key that unlocks this whole report. So Stanine is really just short for Standard 9. It's a simple scoring system that uses a scale from 1 to 9. But here's the crucial part. It's not just a score. It places your child on a bell curve, directly comparing them to every other student of their exact age across the entire United Kingdom. The easiest way to get your head around it is to just think of it in 3 simple bands. If the score is a 1, 2, or 3, that's considered below the UK average. A score of 4, 5, or 6, that's right in the middle, perfectly average. And if they get a 7, 8, or 9, that means your child is performing in the high or above average range compared to all their UK peers. So, what's the magic number in all of this? It's 5. A Stanine score of 5 means your child is performing at the exact average for a UK student. They are right on track. It's the solid center point of this entire system. So what do these bands actually mean in the real world for your kid? Well, a high score, a 7 or above, puts your child in the top 23%, and that's often what's needed to get into the top set in secondary school. An average score, 4 to 6, is fantastic. It means they're doing just fine, right on par. And a score of 1 to 3, that is not a reason to panic. It's a signal. It tells the school there's a specific gap which might lead to some extra support, maybe through something called an individual education plan or an IEP. But believe it or not, for the schools, that Stanine score is still only half the picture. They take this whole analysis one giant step further. They compare that score, what your child did, to what they're capable of doing. And this is where we get to something called the attainment gap. So think of it like this. On one side, you have these GL progress test scores we've been talking about. They measure attainment, basically what your child has actually learned from the curriculum so far. But then schools use a totally different test, usually the CAP-4, which measures cognitive potential, their natural, raw ability to think and learn. So what are the schools looking for?
They're looking for a mismatch. If a child's potential score is way up here, but their attainment score is down here, that's a red flag for them. The school calls this underperformance, and it just means that for some reason, the student isn't quite reaching their full academic potential just yet.
Okay, so after all of this data, all these numbers, what should you, as a parent, actually do with it all? How do you read between the lines to find out what's really going on?
And this is truly the most important thing to take away from all of this. A low score is not a judgment. It's not a sign of failure. It's a diagnostic tool. Think of it like a spotlight, pointing to a very specific and usually very fixable little gap. That low English score, it might just be that technical grammar we talked about. The low math score could just be those wordy problems. These are not character flaws. They are small gaps we can fill with a bit of focused help. So the next time that report card arrives, instead of seeing this scary, confusing document, you can now see it for what it truly is. It's a map. It's a set of directions telling you exactly where your child is, where their strengths are, and most importantly, precisely where a little extra support could make all the difference. The question is no longer, how did my child do? But what is this report telling us we can do next?